Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm pleased to call to order the meeting of the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation for Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. We do welcome public comment on the items on the following agenda. After each item is presented and any comments are received from the directors, we will allow members of the public to provide comments. Speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes, and those representing groups may speak up to 4 minutes, with one speaker per group. Speakers' comments may only address items considered at today's meeting. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has potential conflicts of interest with respect to any of the items on today's agenda.
No.
Hearing none, I would like to call upon, yes, I am pleased to call upon Paul Tronolo to present the first item on today's agenda, a request for approval to appoint a president of the corporation. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you, Francine. As the directors recall, last December you appointed me as acting president of USA Niagara to fulfill the day-to-day roles of the corporation upon the departure of Chris Shefflin, pending a search and selection of a permanent president that could be appointed by the board. Now, over the last months, I've led a search process to consider candidates for a new USA Niagara president. The search was conducted in conjunction with our parent corporation, Empire State Development's Human Resources Department, ESD's Western New York Regional Director, Amanda Mays, our president and CEO, Howard Zemsky, and members from the governor's office. 7 candidates were screened against the posted requirements for the position. Of these, 3 candidates were selected to be interviewed, leading to the selection of the recommended candidate I'm presenting to you for consideration today. Accordingly, I'm very, very pleased to recommend Anthony Villardo to be appointed to the position of president of the corporation. Upon your approval today, he would join our Western New York leadership team along with Amanda and myself, Steve Golick, our regional counsel, and Steve Vernelli, who was recently named president of our sister subsidiary in Buffalo, the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation. As you are aware, Anthony has served as the Director of Business Development for the City of Niagara Falls since 2015, and in that role, he was the Executive Director of the NFC Development Corporation and the Niagara Falls Urban Renewal Agency, and has worked on a variety of projects for the city and managed a large portfolio of both development grants and loans. It was truly impressive how quickly Anthony assimilated to that role and has been, and I know will continue to be, an integral part of the overall economic development team here in Niagara Falls, working in coordination with his local partners at Niagara County and Destination Niagara USA, as well as with the Office of State Parks, the Department of Transportation, local, state, and federal elected officials, and public service utilities. Prior to his position with the city, Mr. Villardo served as Governor Cuomo's representative for Central New York. So even though he's a graduate of Niagara University, I think he shares a little affinity for the Syracuse University basketball and football programs, although that was not a prerequisite in my search process, although Michael would think it should have. I can personally attest to Anthony's passion to make a difference to his hometown is truly evident, as it is to anyone who has had the pleasure to work with him. He's made a conscious decision to move back to Niagara Falls to further build upon what we've started here, and he's worked tirelessly every day to create a better community for his residents, here, because he has a direct stake in it, along with his wife Cheryl and his daughters Carmela and Kate. He is caring and grounded and thoughtful and hardworking, and is well poised to lead the next chapter of our work here in Niagara Falls. So, I'm pleased to officially request the directors to approve the appointment of Anthony Villardo as president of the USA Niagara Development Corporation, as set forth in your materials, and to confirm him as an officer and president of the corporation within the meaning of the New York State Urban Development Corporation Act and the corporation's bylaws, and take any necessary associated actions with this appointment. With that, I'll answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Paul. Directors, any questions or comments?
No questions. No questions.
Well, Anthony, I'd like to welcome you to USA Niagara and the ESDC. You're not a stranger to this operation. You've been to numerous meetings since I've been here as a chairperson, and certainly as Paul and Michael have been here, we certainly know that you've been involved with a lot of the projects from the city side and what we're doing here for downtown development. So we thank you for taking on the responsibility. And Paul, thank you for your good judgment and your efforts to bring someone qualified as Anthony to our board, and
vote.
we look forward.
We don't have to vote on it?
Yes, we do.
I vote yes.
I
vote yes.
I'm just making
Michael, what are you
comments.
thinking?
Let's see.
I guess I asked for the motion for
He threw in
approval.
the Syracuse University. What do you think?
Are there any comments from the public?
Yes.
Oh, we do have one. Yes,
My name
Mr.
is
Weber.
Sean Weber. We own Wine on Third in the Jefferson Apartments downtown. I've been working with USA Niagara since 2001. And
Yes, I know.
This is the development strategy for USA Niagara from 2002. And with Anthony coming on board, I thought it would be a good time to, propose that we take a relook at this and see where we are, see where we're going. Some things have worked, some things haven't. We'll be open 12 years in June at the wine bar, and unfortunately, there's more vacant storefronts now than there was when we opened. So I think I would just like to suggest, and Anthony will be a great guy to do it, is we dig in, take a look at this, and see if there's other ways we can prompt new development and get things moving a little bit faster than they have been. So that's basically my comment. I'm very supportive of having Anthony in the job.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. So, now, may I have a motion for approval? Paul, seconded by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you guys were thinking I was getting a little long-winded there, or what?
No. We just thought maybe you forgot.
I didn't forget the vote.
We just thought maybe
I
you
wanted to welcome
forgot.
aboard.
It was good.
Thank you very, very much appreciated.
Thank you. So the motion carries. Paul will present the last item on the agenda relating to a request for the adoption of revised procurement guidelines. Paul?
Thank you, Francine. In March 2018, the directors adopted and updated and revised guidelines for the use, awarding, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts as mandated by the Public Authorities Law. The guidelines are designed to govern procurements by Empire State Development and its subsidiaries, including USA Niagara. USA Niagara's guidelines largely mirror those of the parent ESD, which have been previously adopted by their board of directors. It should be noted that these procurement guidelines do not have the full force of law, but are nevertheless intended as a statement of best practices and procedures. Now, over the past year, among other issues affecting procurement, Governor Cuomo issued an executive order requiring that all state contractors be determined and, moreover, continue to be monitored to ensure that they are, quote, responsible throughout the term of their contracts with state of New York entities. Now, responsibility is a multi-part process ranging from the ability for a company to take on the work under a contract to it having integrity in its operations and evidence of acceptable work on past contracts for the state. Now, accordingly, the 2019 guidelines had been revised to incorporate these directives as well as other non-substantive changes for clarity and efficiency. And on March 28th, the ESD Board of Directors adopted revisions to the guidelines and require each ESD subsidiary to approve its own procurement guidelines, with any departures from ESD guidelines fully explained by the subsidiary board. Accordingly, the directors are asked to approve the attached proposed 2019 guidelines. Now, note one deviation from the ESD guidelines is being recommended. The parent company's adopted guidelines require the board of directors' approval of any contract over $250,000. However, given the type and fees for contracts typically encountered in Western New York by USA Niagara, staff believes that the appropriate contract amount requiring board approval should be lower than this figure at $150,000. This would permit the corporation to efficiently approve and move contracts forward, but still provides appropriate oversight of contract review to be provided by the board of directors. Now, with that refinement, the directors are requested to adopt the 2019 guidelines for use, awarding, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts. And with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
Guys?
Where did 150,000, how do we get that?
Based upon our experience of the types of contracts we get from consultants and things like that, it was like 250,000. That would be the large majority of all contracts that we deal with consultants. It would be essentially no contracts would ever be brought to the board, and we didn't think that was appropriate. So we looked at like the ranges that we get in typical contracts that we approve, and 150 seemed like a
So
good
150
threshold.
is above average.
Yeah.
Relative, so
Exactly.
average contracts are below.
Yeah, 50 to 100, we get a lot of those, and a lot of stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis, just for expediency, we'll approve those types of contracts. But once it gets above 150,000, we
And
think
they
the director
typically
should
all
take a look.
fit within the guidelines of the budget.
Yes.
So, okay, makes
Very
sense.
Any comments from the public? If not, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Mr. Williamson, followed by Mr. Nanula, and
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all approved. So, that kind of leads us to adjournment. If there's no further business,
I move to adjourn.
Michael, and then Paul. I didn't give you a chance to finish sentences anymore.
you
The sun's shining, we haven't seen it in a while.
Well,
I mean,
but it's cold. But anyway, thank you everyone for participating in today's meeting. Thank you to the members of the public. And thank you, Anthony, for heading up our new